Welcome back to my channel. I'm Joe with Smokin Joe's Pit Barbecue. On today's video, we're going to be making up some delicious hot Italian sausage. Stay tuned. You can see, look at this bark. It's crazy. Oh man, this is perfect. It helps to start with a nice sharp knife, okay? Oh my goodness. Look at that. All right, let's get started on this hot Italian sausage recipe. So what I have is 25 pounds of pork shoulders weighed out. So one thing that I highly recommend when you're buying your pork shoulders is try to look through the package as much as you can and make sure you got a good solid fat cap, because you want that 70 to 30% lean to fat ratio for a good tasting sausage, okay? So these are boneless shoulders. They were actually on sale. They cost just as much as the bone in. So I figured I'd buy these and not have to take the bone out of the pork shoulders myself. So I'm just gonna cut these shoulders into small cubes. And this has been sitting in my freezer for about an hour. It's not quite frozen all the way through, but it is really ice cold. All right, so once you have these nice pork steaks, let's just start cubing this up. I've got a pretty big grinder, okay, so I can leave these chunks pretty big. This is about the size that I'm looking for right here. I'm gonna toss these in the pan that I have right here. All right, I'm gonna finish cubing these pork shoulders up, and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, I've got the pork shoulders cubed up, and again, it is still really ice cold. If your pork shoulder wasn't cold, I would highly recommend that after you cube it up, pop it in the freezer for about 30 minutes, get it nice and firm, okay? So I'm using my 1.5 horsepower meat grinder, and I don't like to start my meat grinder dry. So just put a couple pieces in there, all right, just like that. Then turn your grinder on. Just start feeding it in there. So if you have a smaller meat grinder, I would highly recommend that you start with a 10mm die and then change out the die to a 4.5. Now this is a really strong grinder. Again, 1.5 horsepower. Rarely do I have to use a plunger. As you can see, it just feeds itself. So I would highly recommend that you use the 10mm die first and then switch to the 4.5mm die. Got good texture already. All right, I'm gonna finish grinding this up and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, I've got all 25 pounds of pork shoulder ground up. Now it's still really cold, but I'm gonna pop it in my freezer for about 30 minutes and then we'll come back and finish. So one piece of advice that I would highly recommend at this point is rinse off your meat grinding equipment, okay? Because that meat starts to dry up in there. Don't leave it sitting for a couple of hours. It's easier right now that the meat is still fresh just to run some hot water through this and get it washed up. All right, I'm gonna go put our ground pork in our freezer for about 30 minutes. We'll be right back. All right, so I've got the meat in the freezer and I do wanna go over the recipe. Again, we are making some hot Italian sausages today. 25 pounds of pork, 1 bag of PS seasoning, hot Italian seasoning is enough for the 25 pounds. Okay, it's pre-measured for 25 pounds, but I am making 12.5 pounds, just a regular hot Italian. Then 12.5 pounds is gonna be the hot Italian with some cheddar cheese. These are gonna be delicious, okay? So 1 pound equals 453.592 grams. I like to round that up to 454 grams, okay? So 12.5 pounds of pork times 454 grams equals 5675. This 10% right here is a rule of thumb for cheese, is 10% of the total weight equals the amount of cheese that you're using. So I just saw a mistake that I made on this recipe here. I wrote down 56.75 grams. That is not correct. It's actually 567.5 grams of cheese. And I am using this high temperature cheese that I got from PS Seasonings as well. And I highly recommend that you get this high temp cheese. That way your cheese isn't all runny in your sausage or your brats. All right, let me go pull the meat out of the freezer and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, I've got the ground pork pulled out of our freezer. And I'm just gonna open up this bag from PS Seasonings. Again, 1 bag, which is 0.63 pounds, makes 25 pounds of this hot Italian sausage. Now, I would normally run the spices through the grinder as well, just to incorporate them a little bit better. But this has some whole spices like pepper flake and other seasoning that I don't want to grind up. I want to be able to see some of these spices in the casing. So I'm just going to mix this up real good. I'm not going to add any water yet. I'm just going to incorporate the seasoning into our pork. Mix it really well. This is really cold. I am wearing some cotton gloves under my gloves here. All right, so to this mixture, I'm gonna add about 2 cups of water. just like that. Mix it all up. So this water is really going to help emulsify the pork and bind it all together. And I'll see if I need to add more than 2 cups here in a minute. All right, so I'm going to add 1 more cup of water, just like that, and continue to mix it up. So you want your sausage mixture nice and tacky, and this is part of that emulsification process. Once everything starts to stick together, okay, as you can see, it's sticking a little bit better. All right, our sausage mixture is coming together. Let's test it. Just grab a nice little amount there, and if it sticks to your hand like this, it's ready to go, okay? So this is perfect. I've got my sausage container right here. So I'm gonna load 12.5 pounds into this container, pack it in there nice and tight, and we'll start stuffing. Stay tuned. All right, I've got my container filled up. Just gonna slide the container into my stuffer here and lower that piston just a little bit. Just like that. Put my stuffing tube on and my collar. Get nice and tight right there. And go ahead and start bringing down the piston. You'll start to see the sausage mixture come through your tube. Okay, you want it right at the tip right here, or close to it. That way you're not injecting your casing with air. Okay, that's good right there. You can back your handle up. All right, so these sausage casings that I'm using today are from PS Seasonings, and I gotta tell you, I'm really liking this brand because they're nice and long, and I'll show you guys what I mean here in a minute. Let me just grab one and find the end. These are pre-flushed natural hog casings, and they have been sitting in warm water for about an hour now. So I'm just gonna stick 2 fingers in there and pick up some of that water. That way it untangles the hog casing and also rinses off any salt that might be in it, okay? I like to put a little bit of water on my tube and just grab it in there and start feeding it. Now, some of the mistakes that I've made in the past is putting the casing all the way back here, okay? I'm gonna leave it right here somewhere in the middle, but just put it on there. As I was mentioning, I really like these casings because they are super long. Okay, look at this, okay? That means you don't have to replace your casing as often. Again, from PS Seasonings, this is the Van Hessen brand. And again, this is why I like adding water, because if you have a tangle like I do right here, you can easily spot it because the water's not going through, so you can untangle it real quick. All right, just like that. So just continue to put the hog casing on your stuffing tube. And look at how long this is, okay? So that is perfect right there. So got a lot of casing right here, so just pull the casing out a little bit, tie a knot. Nice and tight, just like that. All right, and we are ready to start stuffing. Now I'm doing this by myself. It can be challenging, but trust me, this is probably my 4th recipe for sausage, and it gets a lot easier as you start to make more and more sausage, okay? So just a little bit of pressure right here, and you can gauge the amount of sausage that's going inside your casing. I like them nice and girthy, okay? So just slowly start filling your casing. Okay, so this is really nice and tight right here. It's looking really good. I'm gonna continue to stuff this, and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, so I've got our casings completely stuffed. Now I did end up with 3.5 of these sausage wheels, and I did rinse off about 8 of these long hog casings, okay? So I used 3 1/4 for 12.5 pounds. Now it's time to twist our sausage links. So if you notice right here on my tray, I don't know if you guys can see it on the camera, I did measure out 6.5 inches, okay? A lot of people go with 6 inches. I like 6.5 because I think it's just a little bit longer, and these will shrink down a little bit once they cook down. So I did measure 6.5 right here on the edge of my pan. So I'm just gonna hold my casing here, and where it's 6.5 inches, just pinch right here. okay? And measure out the next area, 6.5, and then pinch. And at this point, just move the sausage aside. I like to just twist, just like that. And that's a perfect sausage right there, okay? So I'm gonna repeat the process. 6.5 inches, pinch, just like this. Measure out 6.5 inches, pinch, and twist. And look at that, gives you the nice, perfect sausage right there. All right, I'm gonna do one more for you guys here. Pinch, measure, pinch, and twist. Okay, so I'm gonna twist up these links and we'll be right back. All right, so let's make our cheesy Italian sausages right here. Again, I have 12.5 pounds. I've already weighed this out, and I've got my cheese. Just gonna mix this up really good. Still really ice cold. All right, I've got my container filled up. Put the container in your stuffer. Just like that. You guys know that I like to put a little bit of water on my pan just to get it to slide a little bit. Now I did have some extra casing here, so I'm just gonna tie a knot right here. Just like that. Now inside this horn, I still have some of the regular hot Italian sausage mixture, okay? So the first link is not gonna have any cheese, okay? So just remember that when you're packaging these, to pack it separate. Okay? And we'll just start stuffing. And you'll be able to see the cheese in the casing. And obviously that's where you want to stop your link. Okay, and here comes the cheese. All right, so you can see the cheese right here. So I have maybe 2 sausages, maybe 1.5 sausages that are just my regular hot Italian. So I'm gonna continue to stuff this, and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, so we are done with the sausage. I ended up with 41 links of the cheddar hot Italian, and the regular hot Italian, I've got 39 links. So about 80 links total. And I gotta tell you, they're nice and plump. They look really nice. I'm gonna put them in my fridge. I'm gonna have a few of these for dinner tonight. I will be grilling these on my Weber kettle outside. So 4 or 5 hours in my fridge, then we'll head outside to the kettle. Stay tuned. All right, I've got my Weber kettle fired up. These are my hot Italian right here. Just gonna spread them out. Now I do have the B&B charcoal and also some B&B hickory on the bottom of that charcoal, so it's gonna get a really good smoky flavor. So again, these are my regular hot Italian. Try to keep them together there. And here's my hot Italian with cheddar cheese. So I've got the vent on the bottom of my kettle about 1/4 of the way open, and also the vent on the lid is going to be 1/4 of the way open. I want to get a good smoky flavor on these brats. We're going to give this about 20 minutes. We'll be right back. All right, so these sausages have been on for about 30 minutes. Just going to go ahead and flip them. As you can see, I do have some burgers on there. These burgers came from that ground brisket that I did. But I can tell you, look at these sausages, are nice and plump. Holy smokes. These are looking really good. So once I get a little bit of color on the top of these sausages, I will come back and get an internal temperature. Should be another 20 minutes or so till these sausages are ready. Now you do want to cook these to about 165 internal. Again, we are using pork, and 165 is safe to eat for these sausages. So just in case you're wondering, the seasoning that I use on those patties is the Sucklebuster's Campfire Steak Seasoning, which is amazing, okay? So I'm gonna let these sausages smoke for another 20 minutes, and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, I've got these sausages smoked up. Now I lost track of which one was which, so we're just gonna have to cut into them and see how we did. I'm not sure if this one has cheese or not, but we're gonna go with this nice thick one right here. Oh yeah, that's cheese. Look at that consistency. That sausage is perfect. Nice little smoke ring. And let's see if this one's cheese. Okay, this one is not cheese. So I gotta tell you, I really like the texture of the sausage. You got a real nice smoke ring as well. Some of the juice is coming out, so these are perfect. Let's give them a taste. All right, let's see how we did on our sausage. First, I'm gonna try the hot Italian with no cheese. All right, so first impressions on the hot Italian. It's got a little bit of heat, nothing crazy, but it's got a really good flavor. Now let's try the one with the cheddar cheese. Here we go. A lot of cheese in there. All right, so that sausage right there with the cheddar cheese and the hot Italian seasoning is fantastic. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if this is your first time here. Until next time, Joe with Smokin Joe's Pit Barbecue. See ya.